Hi everyone, so my name is Bhavik and I'm going to be talking about implementation of an index. We've been reading a lot of indices that are made in the development sector. However, from a practitioner standpoint, it's important for us to understand it and from a utility point of view, how do you explain stakeholders to implement those indices. My goal is to develop an implementation plan for a needs index which is being funded by Gates Foundation for public schools and public charter schools across the US. The K-12 education scenario in the US is kind of alarming. Only 75%, according to a study, of students will graduate within 4 years of high school education. One of the reasons the schools are not able to help them is because they find it difficult for two reasons. One, the schools lack the tools to classify these students at risk or at high needs. And we have a definition over here, but for decision making, just a definition is not enough, and there has to be some data to back it up. The second reason is they don't know how to measure success for these at-risk students in a contextualized manner. So this is basically all the counties in California and the socioeconomically disadvantaged status of the students. So I looked at some of the data from the Cal State Department of Education, and what I was able to see was among several subgroups, the top 3 subgroups were socioeconomically disadvantaged students, disabilities, and homeless. These were the top 3 subgroups that came up. And persistently, 3 categories of ethnicities, Hispanics, whites, and African Americans constitute the highest percentage of disadvantaged students. Again, and you can see that throughout the last 3 years of time series analysis, and that has been the case. The reason why this is important is because any implementation plan needs to consider this fact to understand who they're catering to. So let me give you a quick snapshot about the needs index that I'm talking about. The needs index has been put together from a school level data set which takes into consideration 50 school districts within California, 1.8 million students from 27,000 schools. And what has been done is a variety of variables that have high correlation coefficients with a particular needs variable. And the needs variable over here is the post-test. So if you say, how do I know what high needs students are, what is the variable that measures it? So for proxy, we're using post-test score as a proxy variable to measure needs. And all these variables have been correlated with that one variable. And you can see over here that MAT pretest, ELA pretest, which is the English language pretest, shows the highest correlation, obviously, because it's directly related to the academic domain. My effort comes into over here when I put on the practitioner's hat and try and explain or make an attempt to explain the school operators to understand this index and the different variables. So based on a lot of interviews that I conducted, I was able to understand where and how can school operators influence these specific variables, and based on that, these different spheres of influence have been created to effect change. Over here, I mean, so every sphere it correlates to a level that to understand which stakeholder is really directly in charge of those variables. So, for example, at the student level, parent level, society level. For example, suspension is something which can be directly controlled by a school operator because they are responsible for it. But at the same time, English language learner status is really a byproduct of the society. Very quickly. So this is so I've created a variable importance matrix in order to sort of help school operators in the implementation, because a lot of research suggests that America comes up with a variety of social reforms in education, but the problem is they don't treat school operators as equal partners in its implementation, and that's why it fails. This variable matrix really gives a chance to school operators to actually be a partner by classifying these variables based on different categories. So for example, the level of influence that you just saw in the previous slide, data collection, how easy it is to collect data for those variables, the correlation coefficient which you actually saw in the slide before, and how achievable is it to actually affect change to see some sort of a result for those specific variables. My recommendations are, in order to launch this, we need to have buy-in of teachers, because that's the last mile connect in education. Second, use this matrix in a way so that one, you understand, you can prioritize which variables are important and start a data collection process. Third, start from the school operator's point of view, start a pilot so that they can find out as to what they're doing and then reflect and do before after assessment to see if the results actually matter and something can be cooperated to sustain long-term change. So that's really my capstone project. Thank you so much for hearing me. Yes.
Having worked on this issue before, I'm wondering if you are also teaching teachers how to identify the variables that you're talking about, and also how are you determining if someone has a disability, if they have an IEP, or like how do you determine that?
So disability, so we're talking about cognitive disability specifically. So to answer your first question, so Gates Foundation, with over around 600 school operators, actually has been conducting several training camps for these school operators to understand this index. And so one of the most important tools in education reform is education of policy for the stakeholders. So there's been consistent effort that has been put in. And what you saw in terms of that variable, which relates to cognitive disability, is a statistic which has been from the data set that we got.
So you're talking about intellectually disabled people, you're not talking about people with like bipolar or other things like that?
So for example, the way DST works over here, where the student identifies himself or herself as requiring accommodation, so a lot of schools operate in a similar manner, unless they find out something which is important enough, which the student himself or herself has failed to sort of notify. So and that's how they sort of classify students. Okay.
Have there been research conducted essentially when is the intervention most effective? I would imagine the earlier you started this intervention, started to come up with a priority of needs index, the more effect it'll have over time.
So when you say where is it effective, you mean at which point in time?
Yeah, when you start detecting, where they're really a high need student, does it matter what age? Like, does it matter if they're high school students, does it matter if they're 5?
So that's a great point, but right now this is actually not as a preventive cure. This is sort of firefighting. I mean, this entire issue is related to how you mitigate an issue which you can't control, because a lot of charter schools, let's say, cater to a lot of students that come in, let's say, in 8th grade or 8th grade equivalent, but they don't have reading or math skills of 3rd or 4th grade, and it's not their fault because that's how it is. And No Child Left Behind policy does not really mandate the school to vet which students they can take in or not take in. So it's really sort of mitigating this issue and not using the same yardstick to compare all students. And hence sort of the next step really is to contextualize success metrics using this needs measure. Yes?
So I think it's very exciting that someone who's worked quite a bit in education in India to come and look at education in the US. What from this might be applicable to India? If anything.
One, I think what I realized over here is there is a lot of there's a lot of thought leadership in America or in the US in the field of education, especially K-12. I see a lot of teachers whoever I've interacted with complain about the situation of K-12 education. But when I look at it from the Asian lens or from the subcontinent lens, I feel that yes, there's no dearth of resources in terms of different different metrics to sort of look at a problem and solve it in a methodical way. But I feel in terms of leadership, when it comes to implementation, there's a deficit, meaning there are no funds at times, the motivation is sort of disfigured, the power is asymmetric between the unified district offices and the school centers. So it's more about what you do with the policy is the issue in people in over here. And so in India, we need to work right from the bottom, at least in the public education system. In fact, the World Development Report actually has sort of deplored the situation of Indian students in the current times, when they actually took a sample size of 6th graders, and they found out they couldn't even read or write at the level of 2nd grader in public schools in India. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, both from policy making and implementation in India.
it could be selection bias, but certainly I don't see that at all in Indians I know.
Yeah, because you guys have a rigorous vetting process with GRE and TOEFL and everything, so kind of ignored the population. But anyway, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.